And I'm gonna go ahead and start sharing here. I might actually get started on time this morning. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and share it on Facebook.
So will this be like the Brady Bunch? Will I see a bunch of people's faces pop up on here? Or?
No, the only people that you will be able to, or the only people in Zoom are going to be me, you, and Matt. Everybody else, and that way it's just us. And the way the room is set up is like if you're speaking, you'll be the one on screen. If I'm speaking, I'll be on screen. But no, the people, and I'll be going back and forth between like the Facebook side and all that. If people have questions, I'll just interrupt you and go on. But generally people don't really say a whole lot.
Cool.
Let's see, where's my thing here? There it is. All right, here we go. All right, guys, give us just 1 second here. We'll get everything rolling. All right, looks like we are live. Guys, today's gonna be a little bit different than what we are normally used to. We do have a special guest with us this morning. So for those of you who are watching for the first time, I know we've got a lot of new members in the group. First off, if you're watching on Facebook, please hit the like button, leave us a comment, let us know that you guys are in here with us. If at any point you have questions, please just drop them in the comments here on Facebook. We will check them out and we'll make sure that we get everything taken care of. But guys, for the ones who've joined us for the first time, I'm Patrick Smith. I'm a real estate agent. We've got Matt Wilson. He is a mortgage lender, and starting this time, about a year and a half ago, Matt and I started this group just to shed some light on the real estate industry, things that we're dealing with here in Tennessee, in our local real estate market, things that agents from other brokerages have brought to us, just things in general that we're dealing with. Since the beginning of the year, we've talked about, how we need to be casting a large net to attract buyers and sellers. We've got to be covering as much ground as possible in order to be in as many different places as possible. And guys, this morning, we're going to bring a guy on here to talk to you. He is a real estate agent, author as well, does a little bit of everything. So he's actually he's casting his nets all over. So we're super pleased to have him in here with us. But I'm going to give it to Matt, let Matt do the intro for him, and we'll get this thing rolling.
Awesome. Yeah. So we've got a very special guest with us today. We've got Art Kelly. We're talking about a gentleman that is a real estate agent, the best beard I've ever seen, author, podcaster, public speaker. What can he not do? So with that, Art, welcome to the show, man. Appreciate you jumping on.
Yeah, well, thanks for that, man. That's awesome. I got to give props to my barber, David Pillow, down in Manchester. He was up here at Woods Viking for a few years, and I sold him and his wife their home, and then and he just, in return, he gives me a good beard. So, and so
well,
props to David Pillow down there in Manchester. I'm sure he's not watching this at all right now, but that's all right.
Yeah. Well, for those that don't know, he's also my barber. So
that's right, I forgot. Yeah.
So
he's not mine, but I go to the same shop. So
so there you go. If you guys want an amazing beard, amazing hair, Art can't speak on the hair part, but on the beard part, go to the Standard Grooming Lounge in Manchester.
David's getting a lot of love today. He doesn't even know it.
Free shout out.
Exactly. We'll snip this out and send it to him later.
Yeah.
Anyway, so what is it that got you started in your real estate career?
Yeah, that's a great question. You got to be careful asking me questions, man, because I'm a storyteller, and so I'll end up taking too much time probably. But basically, My journey started about 23 years ago when I moved to Murfreesboro, and I was working for a nonprofit here in town, and really had a passion to work with people and that kind of stuff, and that's always been in my heart. And then, but it never really kind of crystallized the way that I really needed it to, occupationally, and then so I just was a jack of all trades, master of none for probably 15 years, and I'm 3 years away from 50. Good Lord, that's a long way. Um, but it's about 7-8 years ago, my wife and I started having conversations, and we're like, man, I got to do something. What am I going to do when I grow up? And I'm already in my late 30s at the time. And so I saw all the people moving into Middle Tennessee. I mean, honestly, it was like, I know something about myself that I like to connect with people. I've always enjoyed networking and just making friends. I don't even really like the word networking. It sounds too businessy, but just connecting with people in the community. And I saw all these people moving here. My wife is a photographer, and so she had been doing lots of pictures of families that were moving here from places like California was the main one, right? Like you just keep hearing people say, oh yeah, I'm from LA or Northern California or whatever. And that was intriguing to me that all these people were like mass migrating here from the West Coast, which I found out a few years ago that this is interesting. The largest group of people ever since the gold rush back in the 1800s moving out to California, it's the largest mass migration of people coming back over the last several years, comparatively. So it's like they all went out there, found out that the gold wasn't all that great, and decided to come back home. So anyway, all that to say, I saw all these people moving here, and I was like, what could I do that could put me on the front lines of just being on the welcome wagon with people in this town, having that nonprofit, heart in me 20 years ago. It's still there, and still a desire to connect with people and welcome them and connect them with all the people that I knew, that I had been doing life with for the last 20 years. And and I could make money doing it, right? Like, obviously, I've got a family. I've got 4 kids, whose needs have not become less expensive. So, and anyway, so that's kind of what got me into it.
Awesome. So, obviously starting as a real estate agent and then winding up in the author space and podcasting space, now that's a pretty big jump. What was the catalyst that moved you along to, obviously you're still doing real estate stuff, but what inspired you to decide to write a book?
That's a great question. I've always had that skill to write. I've done blogs in the past. There's been several just life experiences that I've had that I've written about just through a blog or there was a book I wrote years ago that I kind of self-published it as a digital book years ago, and it never really took traction, but it was just kind of a practice. Do you know what I mean? Like, it was just kind of something that I did. And I had been in the education system for a little while. So that was always really important to me, is just being able to pass along stuff that I've learned. One of my favorite, I tell people this all the time, one of my favorite movies, this dates me probably, but I'm excited because they're coming out with the next one here pretty soon, is the Indiana Jones series, and at the end of the third one, the one with him and Sean Connery, he makes this step out over this chasm, right? Like, it's just this big step of faith, and he can't see the bridge that's in front of him, and he puts his foot out and he steps onto the invisible bridge, takes a few steps, and then when he gets across the other side of the bridge, he grabs a handful of gravel and he turns it around and he throws it on the bridge. And it's weird. Like, I still feel like there's a hope, I'm not too old to not still have some steps of faith for myself going forward, but I've been down the road enough at this point where I have been able to kind of metaphorically grab the gravel and throw it behind me and show some people that, hey, listen, there is a bridge there. You can do this. And, and let me show you how. And so as I've been doing my business through trial and error and experiencing a lot of ups and downs. I mean, like anytime you start a business, it's an emotional roller coaster. And so you're going to go through a lot of times where you're going to be like, was this a good idea? And I had read several, but I'm an avid reader. I had read several books, like The Go-Giver by Bob Berg, Miracle Mornings by Hal Elrod. He and Michael Maher wrote a book for real estate agents. It's a story. The Go-Giver was a story. There's just a lot of these parables, these business parables I would read, and I'd be like, oh, okay, that helps me understand, because that's how I learn. And so I wrote this book with this kind of story and a character, and it's me. It's, the character is essentially me as I go through all of the struggles, trying to figure out how to do my business. And then I meet somebody who teaches me how to actually build my business relationally, rather than chasing transactions all the time. And because the first couple of years of doing the business, man, like that's just kind of what you kind of have to do some of that, because it is a bit of, you do have to get out there and beat the bushes for a while. So all of that just kind of, I don't know if that really directly answered your question.
No, I'm honestly glad that you brought some of that stuff up, because honestly, one of the things that I see a lot is, especially with new agents, I say it all the time, I still this day do not know what my expectations were of real estate. And, I too found myself, I got my license and I had them hanging on the wall, and it was like a week or two into it, I caught myself sitting at my desk thinking, crap, what have I done?
What am I supposed to do?
Where are we going with this? And so, I'm glad to hear you talk about that, because honestly, the struggles of real estate is something that a lot of agents don't really, they don't really talk about. In a lot of cases, because you see one of two things. You either see the agents who it seems like they are successful, or you see the ones who have exited the industry. And I believe you and I came into the industry around the same time. And since you and I've been in about the same time, I'm sure you've seen agents that have come in and they're gone now. But it's the struggles that a lot of agents, when they get to those points, they give up. So I'm glad to hear you talk about that kind of stuff, and about how, we made it through, there is a bridge there, you just got to keep pushing, because a lot of times looking from the outside in, it looks like it's an overnight success. It looks like it just happened. It looked like there's, it looks like it's easy. And I may have people say to me all the time, well, I need some of those easy deals. Well, fact is, none of them are easy. When you have those connections and those relationships, it's a little easier when they call you, instead of you having a cold call or whatever. But at the end of the day, the transactions, none of them are easy. They're all the same. It's just how we adjust and how we handle them. So I'm glad to hear you talk about that. Well,
John Maxwell says that success is a journey, right?
Absolutely.
So it's not a destiny. The journey is the destination. I can give you all kinds of quotes, metaphors and all that stuff, but that's true, right? There's just, it is a journey. The journey is not the destination, or it is the destination. There is not going to be an end point. And at what point do you actually arrive to success, right? At the end of the day, success is just, it's what is it? Earl Nightingale. It's a progressive realization of a worthy goal, just continuing to move forward and to push forward and to push yourself to become greater than what you have been. And I think that's really important. I think that's that kind of stuff. I think that's the stuff that's really connected with me the most on this journey. It's not the real estate stuff. There's nuts and bolts of how to take somebody from contract to close. You better be, damn good at your job, right? You better be good at your job whenever you're out there. So go to the contract classes, go to the classes on how to negotiate, go to the classes that teach you all the nuts and bolts. But ultimately, focus on the personal growth stuff, because who you are is going to show up in the way you do the contracts and you do the negotiations, all that stuff. You're going to bring the essence of who you are into all of that stuff. And people will be able to figure out pretty quickly if you're a person that is worthy of continuing to do business with in the future. And so the original tagline for my book was how to become the kind of person others want to do business with. But which is great, but that's just a really long tagline. So it was too much for my front cover. But so I just focused on how to build a business on friendship, because at the end of the day, when I looked back at all the business that I had done with all the people that I had worked with, I realized that I'd built a community of friends. And, by the time I get from when I meet somebody for the first time to the time we close on their house, there's this process that has happened that I look back over and I go, oh, well, I did these things and then friendship resulted. And then a lot of times I'd get to the end of the contract and I'd be like, oh my gosh, like this has been a great experience. Now I'm not going to see you again for the next time you buy a house, and that's what we've been taught, I think, in business a lot of times, maybe not necessarily purposefully taught this, but the goal of a deal is to make the money off of the deal, right? Like that's it's almost like the unwritten thing is, okay, the goal here is to get paid, right? But the truth is, how do we really get paid in this business? Well, what I found was that, yeah, I'd get a client, carry him from contract to close, and I would get a paycheck at the end of that process. But then I would be without a job at the end of that, right? Like now I'm in the constant business of trying to get another job. And people asked me early on, what do you do for a living? And for the first couple of years, I just told them, well, imagine if you woke up every single day and you don't have a job and you've got to go find one. Like that's what it's like being a real estate agent, especially on the front end. And so then I was like, there's got to be a better way, right? Like, please, God, there's got to be a better way, and then I realized, oh, if I would just stay in contact with the people and really love my new friends well enough to be able to connect them with people that I knew here in this town so that they can do life. So if they ever have when they have a problem with their electrical in their house, they can call my electrician. When they have a problem with plumbing, they can call my plumber. So now it became, oh, I need to make as many friends as I possibly can in this town, realtors, potential clients, tradesmen, small business owners, other people that I already share life with, that I have used on my own home to fix my roof and my, termite treatment and all that stuff. So when you get me as a real estate agent, I also was thinking, okay, we make good money on these deals, right? Like we're making 2-3%, whatever. And I was trying to figure out, how can I justify to the client that's out there what we make as real estate agents? Because at the end of the day, it's really not, it seems like a lot of money. It's really not, because after you go through your you pay Uncle Sam and you pay your taxes and you pay your broker and all that stuff, like your commissions are really not much. So you got to keep getting more deals and you got to have a sustainable business over time. But what I found was that if I will just focus on people, build relationships with people, and stay with them long after I sell them, and focus on loving that community of people that I've already served, there is, Brian Buffini says, there's acres of diamonds that you're sitting on. You're in the relationships that you currently have in your life. You're sitting on a minefield of relationships, right? And off so much opportunity that you don't even realize. But most of us don't want to pick up the phone and call our friends because we don't want to be salesy, right? We don't want, I'm here to, why would we call people that we know and ask them anything about real estate? And the truth is, I don't. I would look at my phone and I'd be like, okay, there's like 700 people in this phone that I know. I put them in my phone because they're important to me and I love them. And a lot of them I hadn't talked to in a long time. I'm not going to call them up and be like, hey, I'm a real estate agent now, But what I can do is I can call them and ask them how they're doing and apologize to them for not calling for so long and tell them how much they mean to me and ask them how they're doing and what are they doing now. And inevitably the opportunity comes for them to ask me the same question. And at that point I get the opportunity to say, well, I'm actually, I tell people now, I'm like, well, I just make friends. I'm a friend maker. I make friends professionally. And every once in a while, one of them asks me to help them buy or sell a home, or they refer business to me. And so, and it just makes it a lot more fun. And then you endear yourself to people and they really want to send business your way because you actually didn't care necessarily just about their wallet. You actually cared about them. And that's something that you cannot fake. And that's why I say that whole personal growth stuff is so important.
Yeah, one of the
It's a mouthful.
big things that I've heard is that the person that cares the most in the transaction is the one that wins, quote unquote.
Yeah.
So I definitely see where you're coming from there. I think that's a spot that I've seen a lot of salespeople fall short is they care more about their own wallet. They care more about getting the thing funded so they can feed the kids and all that stuff. And like you said, it's a worthy goal. You know, it's something that you have to do. It's what we're supposed to
Yeah.
do. But you've got to go beyond just surface level, let me get you in a house. What can I do to get you in this car today kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, what was it that I guess how did you come up with the title for your book? It's a pretty unique title.
Yeah. So and it's actually in the story. I tell, because the story it's a fictional story, but it's fictional nonfiction, right? The character in the story meets a lady, and she's a real estate agent. She's been doing it for 25 years. And he just overhears a conversation with somebody else, and the lady makes the comment. She's like, I'm just a friend maker, and somebody asks her what she does. She's like, I'm just a friend maker. And the lady, and she explains it to the girl, and then she comes over to him. He's like, oh, you're not in real estate anymore? And she's like, oh no, yeah, I am. But I just got to a point where I'm like, listen, I just make friends for a living, and that's all I do. And so, if I make enough friends, eventually I get to do my job. Right. And so that made sense. And so about 3 years ago, I heard that phrase, just some made that comment. I was like, I love that. I really think that's really a great way to say how you do your business. So I just thought, well, I'm just going to put that on my card. So I put it on my business card. I don't have it with me, but like, if you see my card, the very first thing it says underneath my name is friend maker, realtor, business coach. And so I started just kind of doing that and just sharing that's what I do. And so over the last 3 years, I've been practicing, I guess, for the book, right, to be able to say, listen, this has been great. I've really enjoyed just being able to do business this way. And it's fun, so that's kind of where it came from.
Well, and it's interesting because you said, it took you a few years to practice. Well, guys, here's the thing. I'm gonna say manifest, but at the same time, it's a mindset shift or a perspective change that we go through a lot. And we automatically wake up and it's like, no, I'm going to help you through this transaction, or I'm a friend maker. I'm not a realtor.
Yeah.
And we start visualizing. And as we are practicing, and I think so many people, they neglect the journey. They, we get so such tunnel vision on closing that deal, getting to the outcome, that we miss the journey.
Yeah.
And, you were giving out those quotes, and don't smack me here and all this, but I'm going to say it. But, the Miley Cyrus song, The Climb. I mean, guys, it is the climb. That's the part of the journey that we tend to miss a lot of times because we get so focused. But here's the thing. At the end of the day, when you have set these goals, when you get to that goal, what's the first thing that pops in your head? Either one, it's generally like, well, that was easier than I thought it was going to be, or where am I going now?
Yeah.
Well, we tend to miss that journey a lot of times because we are so focused on closing the deal. We are so focused on the paycheck. So, it's those things there, that those little mindset shifts. And, one of the things that I had to do early on whenever I was cold calling a lot is, I'd hear people say, well, I don't want to be a telemarketer. Well, I'm not a telemarketer. I'm truly calling to help you.
Yeah.
And when you help enough people, money exchanges hands.
Yeah.
So
there's a guy. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying, I'm glad to hear that you said that, because it puts it in a different perspective, just from different words to use. So hopefully it'll resonate with other people as well.
Yeah, there's a guy I quote in the book. His name's Steve Shapiro. He was a big network marketing guy years ago. I think he passed away a few years back, but he wrote a book called Listening for Success, and he talks about what people's perception of salespeople is. And he said that the common consumer thinks that a salesperson is out there to try to convince you to get something that you don't want to buy.
Yeah.
And he said, the truth is, he said, to the extent that a consumer believes that will be the extent that they either do or do not want to work with you as a salesperson. So what we have to do is we have to start teaching people that no, as a salesperson, my job is not to try to convince you to get something you don't want to buy, but it's actually to help you to get something you do want to buy. And it's like that little nuance, that little shift in mindset to teaching people, listen, we're in sales. Like, I think that there's a big misnomer out there that, I'm not a salesman, and, and the idea is that, yes, of course you don't have to be a pushy salesperson that's trying to convince people they don't want to buy stuff they don't want, but you are in sales. I mean, business is good in this country. People are buying and selling things. And there are people like us who are the mediators, or whatever you want to call it, between the brokers, between people needing to make purchases and stuff. And so our job is to help people get what they want. And so as long as we can understand that, and as long as we believe that, and that's the hardest shift, I think, for anybody getting into the real estate business, to understanding who they are as a realtor, is that, yes, you are in sales, but you're probably not, you're definitely not in the kind of sales that most everybody has been taught that sales is. We've got to still admit, yes, we are salespeople, but we've got to be the ones that are a part of reshaping and reforming what people's experience of what salespeople is. And so, and that's really a lot of what this book is about. Can I share the 7 spheres real fast? How much time do we have? I don't want to take too much. Okay.
You're
We're
good.
only about halfway there.
We got like 3 hours, right? Is that what we
About?
Well, yeah, sounds good.
All right, let me show you guys. There it is. Can y'all see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So what happened was, I realized there was this process, right? The process that I take people from the beginning to the end, when contract to close, when I meet a new client, what do I do with them? That was kind of what was happening. And my wife and I were on vacation. It was 2020. We were at, we were at a condo down in Fort Walton. We're just having like an anniversary weekend, and she had a business thing she was doing for photography that week. And so she left me for like 3 days to just kind of work on this concept. And I had this in my mind, this idea. I wanted to have like a framework, like there's Michael Maher has the 7 levels of communication. It's this little triangle thing. There's Buffini has the 5 circles in his program. There's the 7 habits of highly effective people. There's, I don't know, 4 spiritual laws. There's all kinds of stuff, right? Like, everybody needs a framework. And I'm that way. Like, when I read a book and there's some kind of a framework that I can kind of frame my own life around, that's very helpful. So I wanted to have something like that. And so this idea of these circles came up. And then I realized, well, the circle is a kind of a 2-dimensional thing. And these aren't just skills that you have to develop, but they are more 3-dimensional. Like, you think of like your sphere of influence. So your sphere of influence is the people within your, within your touch, within your reach. And these are the people that are closest to you. And it's just this sphere. So it is 3-dimensional, and you dwell in that sphere. And so I thought, okay, well, what if we came up with these ideas of these spheres? And so my wife and I were just kind of spitballing one day, and we're just throwing out these words, and it's really interesting. They all kind of came in this order, but it was this, there was listening, learning, liking, loyal, leap, and lead, and then love. And as I started to just kind of work through some of these ideas, I realized this is the process that I take a brand new client through when I first meet them. And what I have found is that that over time, the more I do this with people, this is just a basic model of how to build relationships with your clients that communicates that you're not here just to use them as a commodity, but you actually are here to try to build community with people. You want people to actually know that you care about them more than just the sale. So you start with listening. Friendmaker listens to their clients. And and every sphere has like an attitude, like an underlying attitude behind it. So like the sphere that we listen to our clients so that they understand that we're being attentive to them, because they need us to attend to them and their needs. So you begin that conversation with people by shutting up and by listening. As you listen to them, they kind of grow on top of each other. But as you listen to your clients, probably with a pen and paper, right? Like you're going to write down some of the things, you're going to start asking them questions, and you're going to move into the sphere of learning where you actually learn your clients. And by learning your clients, you communicate to them the attitude of understanding. So first of all, you're being attentive. Now it's about understanding. And then as you move past that one, you get into the sphere of liking. Now, this was one that was really interesting as I was talking through with my broker and some other friends of mine, because I'm a people pleaser at heart. And so I didn't want this to be a sphere where it's all about, oh, trying to get people to like me. That's not what this is about. But the idea of the sphere of liking is people generally, they want to be listened to. They want you to learn who they are, figure out what makes them talk. And they genuinely want you to like them. Like they won't say that. Like people aren't going to be, you're not going to have a client that's going to look at you and be like, hey man, I really wish that you would just enjoy who I am. Like you're not going to get that. Or you're not going to hear people, I really wish you would like me more. People aren't going to say that, but I guarantee you people want that, and so what the real underlying attitude of liking people is respect. People just want to know that you have a general respect for who they are, and that you treat them as human beings, that they are not just something that you can use to get what you want out of them, but that they actually really feel like you genuinely like them. And then, so once you've kind of gotten through those spheres, you get to the sphere of loyalty. Friendmaker is loyal to their clients, and the attitude there is advocacy. So, and as a real estate agent, as a business person, your client needs to know that you're on their side, that you're not being combative with them, that you're not trying to you're not trying to help them get something they don't want, but that you're actually there to help them get something that they do want. Then there's the sphere of leaping, which this is where you start having harder conversations with people. This is where you're honest with people. So there's an attitude of risk taking here, because when you do have honest conversations, you run the risk of running them off. For example, I have a client that I just met this weekend. They came down here from Illinois just for the weekend. They wanted to look at houses. And I don't know if any of y'all have ever had this issue before, but people who sometimes don't have all of their ducks in a row financially, and they're not really ready to go buy a house today, often like to shop, and they like to look around, and they like to use real estate agents as tour guides. And so there came a point in our conversation where I actually told my client, this is the point in our relationship where I run the risk of losing you as a client. And I just lay it out in front of me. I said, listen, you guys are about 4 months away from buying a home. You have a house to sell still up in Illinois. There's a few things that need to happen before we start going and really delving into this process of showing homes and looking. And there's also a respect issue with the sellers of the homes that we're going to be looking at, that we need to be sure that we're being respectful of them. If you're not ready to buy a house today, then we probably don't need to be going and asking sellers to leave their home and uproot their family for 2 or 3 hours while you want to go look at a house that you're not going to buy. That's a respect issue. And this is a hard conversation to have with people who just want you to take them out on a tour of homes. But it's a necessary conversation for 2 reasons. Number one, you don't want to waste their time, because you are wasting their time if you do agree to do all of that stuff, because they're not ready and they need some time. And yes, they probably do need to do some shopping around. And that's why we accommodate from time to time, But the other thing is, you're not getting paid. As a business person, you've got to think, what is a good business decision for me and my business? Is it gallivanting all over the middle Tennessee, looking at homes with somebody who's not going to buy a home today, or maybe not next month, maybe not 3 or 4 or 6 months? I need to be spending my time wisely, and I'd much rather spend my time at home and not get paid. Do you know what I'm saying? So anyway,
Yeah.
the sphere of leaping for your clients is very important because we've got to be able to have the hard conversations with people. And you may not agree with me, right? Like you may not agree. Well, I'm gonna show people houses all the time, and I don't want them to think I don't respect them. And I understand that. I get all of that. But there are certain things that we've got to do for our clients' benefit that they may not think is for their benefit, by leaping for them, by taking risks and having honest conversations. And then finally, the last two are the sphere of leading, where we actually lead our clients by serving them powerfully, by being skilled professionals. This is where we go back to that comment I made earlier on of make sure you're damn good at your job. Make sure you know how to take people from contract to close, that you have the right people involved to get people from where they are to where they want to be. Because you can make friends all day with your buddies, but if you're not good at your job, then your friendship making isn't going to matter, because people do care about you being a consummate professional and being able to actually get them what they need. So, and we have these kind of conversations with our friends all the time, all our clients, is that, hey, listen, well, I got a sister that's a real estate agent. And I asked them point blank, is she a good real estate agent or is she just a great sister of yours? Because listen, I'm fine. Like if you want your sister to help you buy a home, then that's great. I would just encourage you to make sure that that she can help you, that she's good at her job. Has she closed on many homes this year? Does she have experience? How long has she been in the business? Can she get you from contract to close? Does she have the right connections to be able to help you? Is she going to bulldog this thing and really make sure that everybody does what they're supposed to do to make sure you get what you want? Or is she just going to make money off of you and you really like her, or you love her, and you don't want her to be mad at you at Thanksgiving because you didn't give her the deal? I mean, as great as that is, at the end of the day, we've got to have those leadership conversations with our clients to lead them to success and getting what they want. And also maybe even telling them, maybe you don't want to ask your sister to do this because you want to be able to enjoy Thanksgiving dinner with her, So it's important. And then finally, after all of that, guys, after you close on that deal, the sphere of loving is that space that we dwell in with our clients, that it's this after sale client care, client appreciation program, whatever you want to call it. We're trying to communicate to people that we actually care about them. We're going to stay with them long after they purchase a home from us. This is so important. Like there's lots of little phrases I've heard through the years, the fortune's in the follow-up, and you just got to care about it. People don't know how much you know until they know how much you care. Like we all know those things. But the truth is that if we don't have a system of after the sale client care, then we will lose them to the next realtor that pops up on their radar whenever the time comes for them to either use a real estate agent or to refer a real estate agent to somebody. And so what I try to do with all my clients, I have kind of like a constant thing I do. I have a newsletter I put out every single month. It's a snail mail, personal. I spend a day writing it, printing it up. I either do it myself or I get my assistant, my daughter, my 15-year-old daughter, to stuff envelopes and put stamps and all that kind of stuff on it. And I got about 200 of those things that go out every single month. I make phone calls to all my clients once a quarter. I send handwritten notes to them once a quarter. And sometimes I'll even pop by their offices and I'll bring them a box of donuts or, a little gift at Christmas time or whatever. And I haven't done this as much as I really should, but I like the idea of throwing more parties. I think that we ought to be party throw. We haven't really been able to do that the last few years because of COVID or whatever. But that's how you show people you care about them. You endear yourself to people. And then over time, as you continue to dwell in these spheres with your clients who are now your friends, you continue to get referral business from them and they call you back. I had a guy call me just the other day. I hadn't talked to him in probably 7 years. I was in the school system and his wife and I worked together at a school here locally, and there had a death in the family. And so they're looking at moving back home to Michigan. And so they're needing some advice, and they're not going to buy or sell a house today, probably not tomorrow, maybe a couple months. But again, it's just a seed that got planted 7 years ago because, I've stayed in contact with them. And so that's the 7 spheres of a friend maker. Ultimately, at the end of the book, I just tell people, I'm just a spoiler, but at the end of the book, I just tell people, listen, he who dies with the most friends wins. That's the goal here. It's a great way to live your life. It's a great way to do your business. And I have found it to be very, very rewarding.
Yeah, that's I like how you one of the things that I think that should definitely be foot stomped here is that there's like basically 5 spheres before you've done anything transactionally speaking, really.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Mm.
And I think that a lot of the times people want to try to like jump straight to the transaction, but you're setting it up really nicely along the way. But one thing too that you said in there that I thought was really impressive is like the whole spirit of leaping thing.
Mm.
Or sphere of leaping, spirit of risk taking. Not a lot of people, much less people that are real estate agents or lenders, have the amount of professional integrity and personal integrity to say, look, like you're not in a position to buy yet.
Yeah.
And I've also never heard anybody look at it and use the phrase, we also need to be respectful of the seller and their home because it's still their house right now.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, obviously, there's a benefit to you of not going out and sightseeing with them.
Yeah.
Sure, take them to Hattie B's and wine and dine them there, I suppose, or burn them to death, whichever. But the big thing is like, if you can't have that conversation, then you're never going to sell and never going to provide them the value that matters enough. You were just doing a transaction for them. And also to get there, you had to go through, 4 other steps. I mean, it wasn't like you could come out the gate and be like, hey, look, no, you can't do that.
Yeah. Well, and you find too that I think people do respect it when you tell them the truth.
Yes.
I think a lot of times we're afraid to have those conversations because we think I'm going to lose this client, right?
Yep.
Like we're thinking I'm going to lose this client, but you got to understand, like, if they're the kind of client that you're going to lose because you told them the truth, you probably don't want them. And the truth is, what's going on in their mind on the other side when they're hearing you say something that you could lose them? Like, there are people, I think when people, I think I appreciate about people who are honest with me is that when I realize you're saying something that is probably not going to benefit you by saying it out loud, because I could leave you, right? Like that actually endears me to somebody because I want to actually trust. I can actually trust that they're going, oh, you mean they're not desperate for me as their client? Like they don't have to have me as their client. And, I've had people look me in the face and just say, you know what, we feel like we're so lucky that we have you as our realtor. and I'm like, but the truth is, and that's, and again, that sounds super self-aggrandizing. I don't mean that way. I just think that, I think that we've got to be able to be honest with people. And when they see that we do really care about them and are willing to have those honest conversations with them, I just think that it ups our respect from them. They will actually have more respect for us as professionals because we're willing to say the stuff that nobody else is saying. And yeah, they might leave us. And that being said, I mean, I do have to clarify. I think one of the very important aspects of what we do in this relationship building process with our clients is wasting our time with our clients. Sometimes it's okay to waste your time. I'm not saying that you need to make a habit of constantly taking people on tour on Saturdays when you could be spending that time with your family. There's got to be some kind of balance. But if you set aside an hour or two to spend with people so that you can get as part of that learning process, right? So like, yeah, I can go, again, it just depends on your mentality. I can go show you homes, but my goal here isn't necessarily for you to look at a house that you're going to buy today. my goal in that experience is to get experience learning who you are as a client. So there is an element of like you want it is a little dicey, right? Because if you do say I don't want to spend time with you, you're going to get fired, right? Like they're not going to be like, you don't want to spend time with me, you don't care, I'm gonna find a realtor who does, so like I get that, but there is a certain element of just be respectful of their time and your time. Don't spend 7 hours. I mean, I've had those marathon days where I spent 5, 6, 7 hours with somebody an entire day and they didn't end up buying a house, and I'm like, I could have spent an entire day with my family and not made any money and I would have been fine.
Well, one of the things that I experienced personally is I was literally late for my son's first birthday.
Yeah.
I will never forget this. He doesn't know, but I do.
Yeah.
And what everybody here doesn't really know is I was out showing property. One, because I was newer at the time. And so I felt like I needed to be out there trying to make money, trying to do things to provide. And so guys, this is a process that we all go through. And honestly, it was after that moment that I made the shift mentally that, no, look, we need to be having a more direct conversation. And honestly, what I found was it was when I personally opened up to the clients and really focused on the educational side, because like the example that you use there, what I find is whenever I'm putting them on the spot and we're talking, I find that to be the most educational opportunity, because at that point, a lot of times they don't understand how the process needs to work. And a lot of the times the agents are scared to even say anything because we are scared of losing that client. Yeah. So when we open up and say, look, guys, we need to look at this from a different way. This is the proper steps. We've got to be respectful to the seller. We've got to be respectful to me, to you. Yeah. When we have those conversations, it allows the clients to open up. And I think there is a different level of respect that comes from that, because you're generally the first one that's put them on the spot like that. Yeah. So,
right. Yep. And as long as you can communicate that you're there to bring as much value to them as possible in some way, shape, or form, you do have to communicate that, listen, and that's why I oftentimes will start the conversation like, look, this is the conversation I have with my clients where I can lose you. And to be able to say that to somebody and be like, listen, I can lose your business right now through this conversation, but we need to have this conversation because it's an important conversation. And we need to communicate and be open. Tell me how you feel about this. After we have that conversation, I'm like, how do you feel about what I just said? And just get an idea from them. What are they really thinking? How are they feeling? They might be like, you know what, I'm kind of pissed off at you right now. You just told me you're not going to take me to look at houses. I'm like, okay, well, let me back up and let me go back and let's just talk this over again. And so yeah, I mean, and it's a very nuanced thing sometimes. You do have to be sensitive. You have to understand personalities a little bit too. There's certain personalities that will accept that conversation a lot better than others. And something else I wanted to share with you guys, and you'll probably see this on my book. And so this is the book. I don't know, can y'all see that is that backwards? Or is it
forward? No, you're good. You're good.
It's backwards on my screen. So but the pineapple, right? Like it's funny. So it's been funny. So I even brought a pineapple with me. Pineapple. This is kind of the symbol of the friend maker, which is really funny. I had several of my friends who wrote little blurbs at the front of the book because I wanted my friends involved in this. So the first 3 pages is just my friends talking about the book and about me and just our relationship and that kind of thing. And but when I first threw it out to my friends a couple of years ago, I showed them the pineapple and they're like, oh, you know what the pineapple means. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And I was like, it means it's about friendship and hospitality. They're like, no, it's like one of the symbols of the swinging movement. And I was like, oh no. And so
I wasn't gonna bring it up, but
people again, elephant in the room, right? Like, okay, so this is not, we're reclaiming the pineapple for what it actually is supposed to be about. So I start the book out talking about Christopher Columbus and the actual history of the pineapple and what actually it was originally intended to be used for. And honestly, it was a symbol of hospitality and friendship. And as a matter of fact, they eventually started taking them because it was such a rare fruit and delicacy. they started taking it, and it ended up on like the tables of kings and royalty. They would go for like $8,000 a piece back in the 1400s or 1500s. And it was an interesting piece of history that I learned about them. But then over time, it became this symbol of whenever there was a party or something like that on a house and we're trying to invite people in, they would take a pineapple and they would impale it on the post of the front of the house. Eventually, they started using, like the hotel industry started to use the pineapple as a symbol of hospitality and welcome. And so you would see flags hanging out in front of hotels that have pineapples on them, and you'd see the lintels and the doorposts of homes with carved pineapples in them. And this symbol of the pineapple was actually a symbol of welcome. And so throughout the book, like I had these 7 circles originally, and then I had my daughter actually drew the little the little crown on the top of that, and that's her drawing there. And but the idea was I wanted to have a symbol that really resonated with the whole idea of friendship and hospitality. And so I've actually thought about starting a website called Reclaim the Pineapple, so that way all the swinger movement, doesn't happen. I was afraid that I'm going to give people some ammunition against me at some point, but that's how I'm going to start all of my speeches and stuff. I'll bring a pineapple on stage, and let's just get this out in the open, guys. It's not about swinging. It's not friend maker. That's not what we're talking about here. But anyway, so that's what that's all about.
I was waiting for Harner to chime in over here. I figured he had a comment on this, but he's not.
Yeah.
He's
I
being good
heard
today.
that. I had heard that about the pineapple. I
Yeah.
think I was in New Orleans and did a city tour, and they brought that up. And then they also said that if the pineapple got taken off the fence post, it was time to go home. They're like, that means the party's over.
Yeah.
But anyway, so the last piece that I want to touch on that you mentioned earlier, real fast here to, I guess, wind some things down, like the sphere of loving. I think that's the other spot that a lot of us fall into the trap of not doing in one way or another. So like, one of the big things in my business that we've talked in the past about is making sure that after the fact that they're clients for life. It's not just somebody that I closed a mortgage for one time.
Yeah.
How did for those out there that right now they're like, holy crap, he sends out a newsletter, he sends out all this stuff, he sends out cards, he drops by, he does all that. How do you recommend somebody that has nothing today? Like the last time they talked to all their clients was at the closing table when they handed them their Home Depot card and shook their hand. Like, how do you recommend just starting that?
Yeah, that's a great question. The first thing I would do is I would just start calling people. I would just, first of all, check up on them, just ask them how they're doing, and apologize to them. Just be honest with them, hey, you know what? There's a lot of realtors that just sell people homes and then never call them back. And I've been one of them, but there's a lot of y'all that trusted me to help you through the process. And I didn't stay in touch with you, but I'd like to start sending you a newsletter. Would you be okay with that? I mean, were they going to say no? They might. I'd be like, no, you suck. I'm not going to have you back in my life. It was over 3 years ago when you sold us the house. Most of them are going to be like, no, I really appreciate that. Listen, this is a human business. So like the more we can humanize this, the less we can, I'm not saying not professional, but maybe we need to redefine what professional actually looks like. Just because you have a nice car and a nice suit and all that kind of stuff and comb your hair, which I don't get to comb my hair anymore, just my beard. Just because you can do all that stuff doesn't necessarily make you professional. Professional is something, I think it starts here, it starts something internally. And you've got to be the kind of people that other people want to do business with. And so the 7 spheres of a friend maker is, and I begin the actual story about it, talking about the problem of impersonal business. You've heard that phrase, it's not personal, it's just business, right? Like we've all heard that phrase before. Well, that's a problem. It actually, business is personal. It's very personal. And so we have a lot of euphemisms that basically allow us to stay detached from other people. so that we don't have to get in deep with them, so we don't have to take the risk of relationship. And the truth is, people are messy. There's a lot of clients that I've had that I probably will never see again or never talk to again. I've had clients tell me over the phone, "You're not my friend." I'm like, "Oh, okay, well, you're just my realtor." Okay, and that's okay. It's not going to connect with everybody. Everybody's not going to read this book or see this whole method and philosophy of business and go, "Yeah, I'm thumbs up. I'm ready to do." Not everybody's going to do that. I read something this morning that really, really challenged me. It basically said, if everybody liked my book, I probably wrote the wrong book. If everybody likes the way you do business, then you're probably not doing business the way you should be. The truth is, it's not going to resonate with everybody. You're not going to connect with every single person out there, and that's okay. All the people that you've served in the past, there's going to be a few of them that probably aren't going to want to talk to you. They're going to think that you just sold them, made money off of them, and just left them on the porch to die. And you can't convince in everybody's mind that you're a great person after that. But what you can do is you can own up and you can just start over. And I would just begin. The newsletter was a game changer for me. When I started consistently putting out a monthly newsletter, consistently every single month, I found that I started to show people in my world that I was serious about my business and that I was serious about being a voice of value for them. And so my newsletter doesn't just have like a bunch of real estate statistics on it. That's so impersonal. If all your real estate newsletters and emails is just real estate this and real estate that, people aren't going to read them. They're going to just throw them in the trash. I'd still say that a good portion of the people that get mine probably just throw it in the trash. But at the end of the day, I tell stories of clients that I've served. So on the front of my page of my newsletter is going to be the story of my friend Marcus, who just bought it. So this month's going to be Marcus. Picture me and Marcus at the closing table and maybe a little snapshot of the house he bought. And we're going to talk a little bit about the process. Hey, I met Marcus a few years back, and tell the story. And congratulations, Marcus. I'm so excited for you buying your home. And then I also have I have like a shout out to a local business. So last month, one of my clients here in town, Jarrell, he has it's called Fish Window Cleaning. He does his own window cleaning business. He opened that up this last year. They had a baby, he and his wife. Like when I met him, he was fresh from California and he wasn't married. He was moving here it was like a parachute drop, just moving into Murfreesboro, bought a house over in Shelton Square, got married a year later, had a baby another year later, started a business another year later, and now he's on my newsletter, and I'm telling everybody about him because he's great and he does good work. And so that's in my newsletter. I put inspirational quotes and motivational stories and things that will be of value to people so that when they pick up my newsletter, I hope that they anticipate getting it every month, And then it also keeps me in flow with them so that if they do think about or run across somebody who needs to buy a home, I'm the first person that comes to mind because I'm the one who stayed in their life over the last 3 years since they bought the home. But the thing is, if I hadn't been doing that every month for the last 3 years, I wouldn't be getting the business now that I'm getting because of the just staying in touch with people. And so, yeah, that's what I would do. I would just start, don't rely on an email drip campaign. Yes, they're helpful. They keep people top of mind. The email is still one of the most impersonal ways of communicating, even though it is a big way of communicating, and it's not a bad way. I'm not saying this isn't a right or wrong, right? But there are ways to communicate through email that communicate you're just another person on my email list versus personal. There's just, I don't know. I'm probably old school. Handwritten notes. At the end of the day, people actually open handwritten notes. I spend a lot of money in postage every single month. And I'm not very happy that stamps are going up to 63 cents already. So, but
guys,
listen,
we are
starting
to run a little tight here on time. Yeah. Tell us where we can get the book.
You can go to artkelly.org. And there's a link at the very top where you can click on it. It takes you straight to Amazon and you can order it right there. That's the best way to get it right now. Okay. Or you can just go straight to Amazon and look up Friend Maker and 7 Spheres of a Friend Maker.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, Matt, do you have anything to wrap up with or?
Yeah, it was a pleasure getting to speak with you today, Art. Thank you very much for coming on. I'll after we hop off here in a few minutes, I will post some links to that, your podcast, and all that sort of stuff in the group here, so everybody can get on there and grab them a copy of the book. And then I saw too, I guess you've got a CE class coming up pretty soon here. Is that something that's open only to Benchmark, or is that a general CE class?
That's a great question. I'm not really sure just yet on that one, but there is one coming up at the end of March 22nd. I'll be doing it with Carrie Ann Sear. She's another mortgage lady in Franklin. And then I've got several other ones that I'm lining up for the year. So if you're needing somebody to come and speak or even do another webinar like this, I mean, webinar is easy. I can just come in and do this with folks. One other thing real fast before you go, and I know we're running on time, but if you go to artkelly.org and you want to just kind of have a little self-assessment and figure out, okay, where am I in the 7 Spheres Friendmaker framework? There's a little place on that thing called survey, the 7 Spheres survey. You can take that survey. You have to give me your email. It's just the way I can collect emails and communicate with everybody. But it's a really great, it's a 35 question survey. You can take it and it'll help you figure out, okay, where am I strong? Where am I weak? Which areas do I need to work on the most? And that's really helpful.
Awesome. And guys, real quick, I did find the link to the Amazon book in one of my emails. So I did copy and paste it over into the group chat. So for those of you who are looking to purchase the book, there it is. Man, we appreciate you being on here with us. Guys, again, I hope you guys on Facebook have enjoyed it. Again, Art Kelly with Benchmark Realty here out of the Nashville area. If anybody has questions, needs anything, reach out to us, reach out to him, whatever we can do to help. But we will see everybody next week.
Awesome.